Welcome back, dear friends, to our sanctuary of the hidden and the profound. Tonight, as you prepare for deep sleep, we are entering a vault of green and gold. This is a sleep story designed for deep relaxation and historical immersion. This is a bedtime story for the restless, a journey into a wonder that may have been a dream or a masterpiece lost to the sands of time. Settle into your blankets. Let the weight of the day fade as we unlock Vault 24. Imagine, if you will, walking through the cool, silent corridors of our museum. Tonight, the air is thick with the scent of damp earth, crushed mint, and the sweet, heavy perfume of jasmine blooming after a rain. We are standing before a door made of blue-glazed bricks, shimmering with the images of golden lions. In the center of the vault, resting on a plinth of sun-baked silt, is a single ancient brick. It bears the stamped seal of a king, and pressed into the clay is the perfect fossilized impression of a cedar leaf. This is our key. This is a fragment of a mountain built in a wasteland, a monument to a love that could not bear the heat of the sun. Tonight, we are traveling to the banks of the Euphrates River in the 6th century before the Common Era. We are going to explore the desert Mirage, the vanished splendor of the hanging gardens. Let us begin our meditation on the Garden of the Gods. 1. The dust and the river, the world of Babylon. To understand the miracle of the gardens, we must first understand the world they inhabited. Imagine the city of Babylon. It is a world of brown and gold, a city made of mud and sun. The heat here is a physical weight, a dry, baking pressure that cracks the ground and turns the horizon into a shimmering haze. For hundreds of miles, there is only the flat, relentless desert. But through the heart of this dust flows the Euphrates. The river is a ribbon of life, a slow-moving god of silt and water. Along its banks, the palm trees lean over the current, their fronds heavy with dust. The sound of the water is a constant, low hush against the mud brick wharves. As you settle into your bed, imagine that heat. Feel the sun on your skin, not burning, but a heavy, comforting warmth that makes your muscles go soft and heavy. You are standing on the banks of the river. The world is vast and flat, but then you look up. There, rising out of the dust like a green ghost, is a mountain that shouldn't exist. It is a forest in the sky. It is the Hanging Gardens. 2. A mountain for a queen, Nebuchadnezzar and Amytis. Why build a mountain in a land of plains? The legend tells us that King Nebuchadnezzar II built the gardens for his wife, Queen Amytis. She had come from the land of Media, a place of high mountains, green valleys, and rushing waterfalls. In the flat, burning heat of Babylon, she felt like a prisoner. She pined for the shade of the cedar trees and the cool mist of the mountain air. Grief and homesickness can be a slow, quiet poison. The king saw his queen fading, her eyes always fixed on the distant, hazy mountains of her home. And so, he decided to bring the mountains to her. He would not just build a palace, he would build an ecosystem. He would defy the desert. Think of that intention. It was an act of supreme love and supreme arrogance. He commanded his architects to build a series of ascending terraces, rising 75 feet into the air. Imagine the rhythm of the construction. Thousands of men laying bricks, sealed not with mud, but with lead and bitumen to keep the water from seeping through. As you breathe in and out, imagine the strength of those foundations. They are deep, they are solid, they are built to hold the weight of an entire forest. You are just as supported, you are just as secure. The foundations of your sleep are being laid now, brick by heavy brick. 3. The engineering of the impossible, the ascent of water. How do you keep a forest alive in a place where the rain never falls? This was the true wonder of the gardens. The water had to be lifted from the Euphrates, defying gravity to reach the highest trees. Imagine the hidden machinery. Deep within the stone pillars, there were massive Archimedean screws, spiraling tubes that turned endlessly. As they turned, they pulled the river water up, step by step, terrace by terrace, until it reached the very summit. Think of the sound of that machinery. It is not a harsh industrial noise. It is a rhythmic, watery slap, gurgle, splash. It is the heartbeat of the garden. Once the water reached the top, it was released into a series of channels and fountains. It flowed down the sides of the terraces in artificial waterfalls, cooling the air as it fell. Let that sound enter your mind now. The drip, drip, drip of water falling from one stone ledge to the next. The air around the gardens was 10 degrees cooler than the city below. As you relax, imagine that microclimate wrapping around you. The dry heat of the day is being washed away by the mist. You are being cooled. You are being refreshed. The water is doing the work for you. You only have to listen. 4. The shadow of the terraces, a sensory walk. Let us step inside the gardens. As you walk into the first terrace, the sun disappears. You are in a world of deep green. The walls are covered in climbing vines, their leaves so thick they block out the sky. The light here is filtered and soft, the color of an emerald. The air is heavy and sweet. There are pomegranate trees with their bright orange blossoms. There are fig trees, their fruit heavy and smelling of honey. There are date palms and cedars, their roots buried deep in layers of reeds and bitumen. Imagine the touch of the garden. The moss on the stones is cold and damp. The bark of the trees is rough and ancient. You find a stone bench near a small bubbling brook. You sit down. The stone is cool against your skin. You can hear the sounds of the city of Babylon far below, the distant rumble of carts, the shouting of the guards. But here it is all muffled by the foliage. It sounds like a dream of a city, not a reality. Here in the gardens, there is only the rustle of the leaves and the hum of the bees. You are safe in the shade. The desert cannot reach you here. The vanished splendor is alive in this moment. Feel the weight of your limbs as you sit on that cool stone bench. You are sinking into the moss. You are becoming part of the mountain. 5. The Nineveh Mystery, the ghost of a location. But here is the secret of Vault 24. For 2,000 years, we have looked for the gardens in Babylon, but we have found nothing. No pipes, no screws, no inscriptions. Modern scholars have begun to look 300 miles to the north, to the city of Nineveh. There, the king Sennacherib built a palace without rival. He left behind records of massive aqueducts and gardens that he called a miracle for all peoples. Could the hanging gardens of Babylon actually be the hanging gardens of Nineveh? Was the location lost in the fog of history? Think of that vanishing. It is as if the gardens were so beautiful that they couldn't be anchored to a single spot on a map. They are a mirage that moves through time. As you prepare for sleep, let go of the need for proof. It doesn't matter where the stones were laid. What matters is the idea that even in the harshest, driest parts of our lives, we can build a sanctuary. We can plant a forest in the desert of our minds. The gardens are wherever you find your peace. They are here in the dark, with the scent of the mint and the sound of the water. To ensure we reach your 3,500 to 4,000 word target, this second half of the script dives deep into the sensory experience of the garden's higher terraces, the tragic disappearance of the structure, and the legacy it left behind in the human heart. As requested, I have lead with your signature opening, removed phonetic handholding for standard English words, and expanded the prose to be as descriptive and immersive as possible. 6. The canopy of life, the high terraces. As we ascend the stone steps from the lower levels of the garden, the air begins to change. On the lower terraces, the shade was deep and the air was heavy with the smell of wet mud and ferns. But as we climb higher, we move closer to the sun. Here, the gardens are not just a sanctuary, they are a celebration of the empire's reach. Imagine the effort it took to bring these plants here. King Nebuchadnezzar did not just plant local palms. He sent his soldiers and traders to the very edges of the known world. They brought back saplings wrapped in damp cloth and seeds stored in jars of honey. At this height, we find the great cedars of Lebanon. Their trunks are massive, rough-hewn pillars of silver-gray bark. Their needles are a deep, dark green, and they release a scent that is sharp, clean, and ancient. It is the smell of a high mountain forest thousands of miles away, brought to the heart of Mesopotamia. Think of the determination required to keep a cedar tree alive in the desert. Their roots require constant moisture, constant care. As you breathe in, imagine you can smell that cedar. It is a grounding scent. It clears the mind. It makes the world feel vast and old. You are standing under the heavy branches of a tree that has survived for centuries. You are protected by its shade. You are part of the empire's greatest miracle. 7. The science of silence, the cooling breeze. How did the gardens remain so cool even when the Mesopotamian sun was at its fiercest? The architects of Babylon understood the physics of the wind. they designed the terraces to act as a natural air conditioner. As the hot desert wind hit the wet leaves and the falling water of the terraces, the moisture would evaporate, pulling the heat out of the air. This created a breeze of the gods, a constant, gentle flow of cool, humid air that moved through the arched corridors and the open galleries. Imagine walking through one of these corridors now. The walls are made of thick, sun-dried brick, but they are covered in a layer of cool, damp moss. You can feel the moisture on the back of your neck. The temperature drops 20 degrees as you move further into the shade. There is a specific kind of silence here. It is not the empty silence of a vacuum. It is a layered silence. You can hear the distant, muffled sound of the Euphrates below. You can hear the soft rustle of the cypress trees above. You can hear the rhythmic, dripping sound of the irrigation channels. As you relax, let that science of silence wrap around you. The world outside is loud, hot, and demanding, but inside the garden, everything is designed to be quiet. Everything is designed to be cool. You are sinking into that cool, mossy shadow. Your breathing is slowing down to match the rhythm of the dripping water. You are safe in the architecture of air. 8. The invisible hands, the gardeners of Babylon. A garden this large is a living, breathing creature. It requires a heart to keep the water moving and hands to keep the green from turning to brown. Imagine the army of invisible workers who lived within the stone foundations. There were hundreds of men whose only job was to turn the great Archimedean screws day and night. They worked in the dark, cool tunnels, their movements synchronized and steady. Then there were the gardeners, men who understood the language of the soil. They would move through the terraces at dawn before the heat of the sun could burn the leaves. They would prune the vines, check the moisture of the roots, and ensure that the pomegranate blossoms were healthy. Think of that stewardship. This wasn't just a project of stone and engineering. It was a project of patience. Every leaf was known. Every tree was a child of the empire. As you settle into your blankets, think of those invisible hands. You don't need to do the work tonight. The gardeners are taking care of the world for you. They are watering the trees. They are tending to the flowers. They are ensuring that the sanctuary remains perfect. You can let go of your responsibilities. You can trust in the maintenance of the universe. The garden is being held for you. 9. The great desiccation, the return to dust. All things born of the river must eventually return to the river. The hanging gardens flourished for several centuries, a green crown on the head of the city. But Babylon was a prize that many kings wanted to claim. First came the Persians, then came Alexander the Great. Alexander loved the gardens. He spent his final days in Babylon, perhaps finding comfort in the shade of the trees that reminded him of his lost youth in Greece. But after Alexander's death, the city began a slow, painful decline. The empire fragmented. The great irrigation systems, the lifeblood of the city, were neglected. Imagine the drying of the mountain. One by one, the great screws stopped turning. The water level in the channels began to drop. The artificial waterfalls turned into a trickle, and then a silence. The moss on the stones turned to brown dust. The leaves of the pomegranate trees curled and fell. The great cedars of Lebanon, deprived of the moisture they needed to survive the desert heat, slowly withered. The lead and bitumen that had protected the brickwork began to crack. Without the water to bind it together, the garden became a skeleton of stone and mud. Think of that vanishing. It wasn't a sudden explosion. It was a slow, quiet fading. The desert simply moved back in. The sand filled the arched corridors. The mud bricks, once so solid, began to melt back into the silt of the riverbank. As you breathe, think of the transience of beauty. It is what makes the moment so precious. The gardens are gone, but because they are gone, they can never be spoiled. They remain perfect in our minds. You are letting the day fade away now, just as the gardens faded. It is a natural process. It is a return to the quiet earth. 10. The archaeological ghost, the search for the stones. For 2,000 years, the Hanging Gardens have been a phantom of history. In the late 19th century, a German archaeologist named Robert Koldewey arrived in Babylon. He spent 18 years excavating the city. He found the Ishtar Gate with its beautiful blue-glazed bricks. He found the foundations of the Tower of Babel. But the gardens remained hidden. He found a series of vaulted cellars that he believed were the base of the terraces, but modern scholars are skeptical. There was no sign of the water systems. There was no sign of the lead lining. Then came the theory of Dr. Stephanie Dalley. She noticed that later kings often confused the names of Babylon and Nineveh. She looked at the carvings in the North Palace of Nineveh and saw a magnificent terraced garden with an aqueduct system that actually existed. Think of the mystery. Did we lose the gardens because we were looking in the wrong city? Or were they so grand that the human imagination simply moved them to wherever the heart of the world was at the time? As you drift toward sleep, imagine the archaeologists in the dust. They are searching for stone, but you have found the truth in your dreams. The gardens don't need a location. They are a state of being. They are the internal landscape where you go to find rest. You are the only one who knows the true path to the terraces. 11. The soul's sanctuary, the eternal garden. We return now to the quiet of our museum. The ancient brick on its plinth is still there. The fossilized leaf of the cedar tree is a reminder that once a king built a mountain for a queen. We walk back toward the blue-glazed door of Vault 24. The scent of the mint and the damp earth begins to fade, replaced by the cool, neutral air of the museum corridor. We hear the soft thud of the door closing, sealing the desert mirage away. But the feeling of the garden remains within you. You have walked the terraces. You have felt the mist on your skin. You have heard the water rising through the stone. The Hanging Gardens taught us that even in a world of dust and heat, we can create paradise. We can build a space for our hearts to bloom. Tonight, your mind is that garden. Every thought is a leaf. Every dream is a fountain. You are in a space of absolute growth and absolute rest. There is no desert here. There is only the green, the cool, and the deep. You are safe. You are grounded. You are drifting into the emerald dark. And so, dear friends, we leave the vanished splendor of the hanging gardens and return to the world of the present. We carry the coolness of the water within us, the scent of the night-blooming jasmine, and the silent, rhythmic pulse of the ancient river. The gardens have taught us that while stone may crumble, the intention of beauty is immortal. As you drift off, feel the green shadows surrounding you. You are part of a long, beautiful, and eternal history. Sleep well, dear friends, and find rest in the heart of the desert mirage. Good night.